All right, everybody. Good evening and welcome. So we're expecting about a full room tonight, but I'm pretty sure a bunch of radical leftists filled our RSVP box with phony RSVPs. So lighter crowd than we were anticipating, but welcome. So welcome to the Arapahoe Tea Party. We appreciate you coming out on a Tuesday night. So I wanted to give a little bit extra time in case traffic or anything was bad. But before we get started, we always do God Then Country, and then we will go ahead and start with a video that was actually shown at Charlie's funeral down in Phoenix. Was anybody else in this room there in Phoenix besides my mother and I? Okay. But it was a beautiful service, and we could not be more grateful for Turning Point for opening that to the public, because that is such a rare thing in this day and age, especially with how big Charlie was. So, we'll put the flag up because I forgot to bring it tonight, but do I have any volunteers who'd like to lead us in prayer? If not, I will take it. Okay. If you'll please remove your cover and bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you today and we pray for strength and peace for Erica Kirk, as today would have been Charlie's 32nd birthday. We pray for peace in America. We pray for strength to heal the divide that has come across all of us. We pray that you be with the detractors that have so much hate in their heart, that are filled with the devil himself. We pray for those people. We pray for our enemies, and we pray for those that hate us for standing up for our country and for you, Lord. We pray for a safe evening tonight. We pray for fruitful discussion. We pray for meaningful discussions, and we pray for all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So please stand and join me in the pledge. But we do a countdown here for those of you that have not been to a Arapahoe Tea Party before. So we do 3, 2, 1, and then we all say "I" at the same time. So it's not a pledge as the first word. So if you'll join me, 3, 2, 1.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. So I have a feeling I know the answer to this question already, but how many in here first time in a Arapahoe Tea Party? Please raise your hand. Perfect. Now, leave your hand up if you do not agree with me. Well, that's not going to work well.
You can
All right.
pretend they don't agree with you.
Yeah.
I'm his mother, I can do that.
There we go. All right. Well, I just wanted to get a feel for who was going to come up and say hello and debate and do those kind of things. So I know we marketed this as a prove me wrong, but I think we're going to do it as an ask me anything, just because I didn't want to stick it to just one point. Somebody in this room actually asked me the other day, what's your prove me wrong going to be? And I couldn't come up with one that I really was like super passionate about, especially because I didn't know what to expect tonight, right? I didn't know if we were expecting a room full of conservatives or a room full of liberals, right? And if you're going to do, not knowing what that crowd is going to be, it's hard to say, well, we're going to do this issue or this issue, because you could do Dave Williams versus Britta Horn, or you could do Trump is not Hitler, prove me wrong, right? So we're going to do an Ask Me Anything, so you guys are welcome to do that. But I want to open tonight, in my prayer, I included the people that hate those of us in this room in my prayer. And I want to specifically, this email is very graphic, and Shannon's going to probably run out the door because she doesn't want to hear it. But when we promoted this meeting, we were supposed to have Victor Marks, who's running for governor. He was supposed to speak tonight and couldn't attend. So hopefully next month we'll have him. But we promoted this as, in honor of Charlie, we're going to do a Prove Me Wrong, right? And as those of you that may know, Charlie was a personal friend of mine for almost 10 years. And he was a mentor and a friend, and today has been hard on all of us. Those that knew him and didn't. But when I sent out these emails, it's the same email list I've been using to promote Arapahoe Tea Party meetings for 3 years. There's 70,000 people on this email list.
Wow.
I received over 200 hate mail responses because it mentioned Charlie. I have never received hate mail responses to our Tea Party invitations ever until this email went out. And The worst one by far was from a gentleman by the name of Frank Cooper, and I'm not afraid to dox him because he's getting reported to the FBI for his rhetoric. Responded, quote, "Charlie Kirk should have been tied over a barrel and raped by a moose. Then he should have had his testicles gnawed on by a beaver. It would be good to follow it by gutting him and burning his entrails, then taking out his eyes with a red-hot spoon. Fuck off, you spamming bastard Republicans." That is the left we're dealing with, folks.
My own neighborhood.
And tonight was marketed as a night of peaceful debate, meaningful discussions, asking the tough questions, and finding common ground. And those are the responses I received. This country needs God, and Charlie Kirk has brought that to us. We've witnessed the greatest Christian revival in the history of our country. I mean, today I was in a meeting with Randy Corcoran and Tom Tancredo, and we were talking about Charlie, obviously, and there's something that Tom and I are working on, and Randy's going to help us with it now too, to honor Charlie permanently in America, and there will be more coming on that in days and weeks to come. But we literally were talking about how Randy truly believes that Charlie's death was the most impactful death for the Christian movement since Jesus Christ himself. That's what Randy said today. And it kind of shocked me because when you look at how many people attended that funeral in Phoenix, there were 300,000 people at State Farm Stadium in Phoenix, Arizona on a week's notice. There were 3 million people watching around the globe. And we were in that room when they asked if you were not saved and if you'd rise and be prayed over. There were hundreds, if not thousands of people in that room that found Jesus as their Lord and Savior. And Charlie's number one thing that he wanted to be remembered for was for his faith. Above all else, political stuff aside, he wanted to be remembered for his faith. And tonight, it is my hope that I can continue that mission to you all and encourage you that if you have not found Jesus, please do. Because it's people like this guy, Frank Cooper, who have not found Jesus, that Charlie Kirk is not alive today, celebrating with us his 32nd birthday. Okay?
His wife said today was the best gift for his birthday, to receive that honor.
The line that really got me in her speech today in the Rose Garden, which if you didn't watch it, I highly encourage you to watch the Medal of Freedom ceremony. It was a beautiful, beautiful service that the president held. The line that got me was when she was talking about how Charlie never liked his birthday, never wanted anything big or pomp and circumstance, never excited. He didn't really care for his birthday. And she said, quote, that she told him, "Baby, I love your birthday because it's the day that God knew the world couldn't go on another day without you." And in my mind, it was that the day he died was the day God couldn't go on another day without him. Right? So Charlie's death has been hard on all of us, but I wanted to take just a couple of minutes to just share my piece with you all. If you attended our vigil up at Dirty Dogs a few weeks ago, we appreciate that. Thank you for coming. It was a beautiful service. But before I bring my mom up, because she wanted to share a few words, I want to share this video. This was played at Charlie's funeral, and I wanted to share it. It's just kind of a video about Charlie's life, and I hope you will enjoy it. It's about 3 minutes. So we'll do that, then Mom's going to share a couple words, and then we'll get started with our programming for the evening and announcements before that, obviously. But, yeah. Hold on, I just realized it's muted. Technical difficulties.
Pan movement. We're going to be coming in. We're active in about 15 campuses, and we're growing very, very quickly. And keep in mind, this is not just a flash in the pan movement. We're going to become an institution to give them the power and the confidence to stand up and let their voice be heard. I started this organization when I was 18 years old. I decided not to go to college. I didn't get my dream school, which was the United States Military Academy at West Point. I have this idea to galvanize and motivate the future youth of this country around a core set of ideas, not just political parties or politicians. And the ideas are really America's the greatest country in the history of the world. The Constitution is the greatest political document ever written, and free enterprise is the most assured way to lift people out of poverty and create prosperity for all. Those are the three big ideas. And I think that's something that can win. we as Christians are called to go into the public arena to correct error with truth. So I go to college campuses and there's a lot of error. We're all sinners. We all live in error. I'm far more interested in what God wants of me than what I want from God.
I have to say this without getting emotional, but I'm very proud of my husband. And I know many of you are too. You have worked so hard. And I know a lot of you have seen, obviously, his videos on TikTok and all the stuff he does on campus. But no one gets to see him from my angle except for myself and our children. And the sacrifices that he made this year, he's amazing. I'm very blessed.
And I would not have been able to do any of it without Erica. And that's the real truth. I'll tell you what. You are here as a grassroots response to the top-down revolution happening in this country. I want our Turning Point USA students to receive a round of applause. These are the freedom fighters of America.
The media said that Turning Point could never run a ground game. They weren't experienced. They didn't know Charlie, right?
This is the greatest generational realignment since Woodstock. This generation is the most conservative generation that we have seen in well over 50 years, and the numbers show it. What young people especially are screaming at is they say, give me a structure that I can live my life by. And especially with young men, more challenging of them, more saying, you know what, honestly, I'm not gonna talk down to you. Stop being a boy and become a man. You wanna learn what that means? Come to church and I'll tell you what it means to become a man. Because we have the greatest story ever told. What can I do to save the country? You answer that question every single day. Because you are doing the work to save this beautiful republic. You are doing something that is bigger than you.
If everything completely goes away, how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing. Most important thing is my faith in my life.
All right. Sorry for the emotions tonight, guys. It's going to be a fun little opening segment. But before we get into announcements, I want to mention that Nina over here has brought Charlie Kirk merch. She is selling the Freedom shirts that are like the one hanging here on my podium. So she's got red and white. She's also got some MAGA hats. She's also got really neat buttons. This white one is my personal favorite. It says, "This is the Turning Point," has a cross on it, flag. So she's small business, just pays for the stuff herself, and that is part of her income. So if you can, and if you want to support her, feel free to pop up and grab something. She does have to leave before the meeting ends. So if you want to do that, you can do that while we're talking. It's nothing to be worried about. Well, you won't offend me.
Nina's right here.
And I did
And
take
that- yes.
$5 off for tonight.
Oh, perfect. There you go.
30, I'll take $5 off.
So that means the shirts are 25 and the buttons are
Right.
5 off, whatever. So
I have
yeah.
20, yeah.
But yeah, so if anybody's interested. So really quick, for those of you that don't know who I am, because there was a lot of new people in this room, I want to introduce myself. I'm Weston Eimer. I am the chair of the Arapahoe County Tea Party. I took over for Randy Corcoran, who is our Republican National Committee man. He stepped down from Tea Party back in December, and I was elected to replace him. He also nominated me, so that's probably part of the reason I'm here. But I also served on the Republican National Committee's Youth Advisory Council for the last 2 years. Finished that up in about April of last year, or of this year, I mean. And so that was my previous gig. So my job was to go around the country with the RNC and be on social media advocating for what Charlie was doing already. Right? The RNC tried to copy what Charlie was doing, and they refused to work with him in the 2024 campaign. And there were a few good ones, like me, that were on the council that were fighting the good fight with Charlie and Turning Point more than we were with the RNC, but we were in there to have our nose to the ground to see what they were doing, right? Or I should have said ear to the ground to hear what they were doing. But that was my 2 years ago. Then Before that, I've worked for President Trump's campaign 2 times. I was the co-chair of Jefferson County in 2016, was an intern in 2020, and then the RNC in 2024. So I've worked all 3 presidential campaigns, helped him get elected 3 times. Because we all know what happened in 2020. But that is a little bit about me. I currently co-chair the Team Eimer PAC, which I'm sure my mom will probably talk about a little bit. We are a PAC that is laser focused on ballot initiatives, promoting America First candidates, and recruiting Gen Z individuals to stay active and involved. Because if you're like me, and you're too old to be part of Turning Point, or you aren't in college and can't be part of Turning Point, what are you gonna do, right? You gotta find somewhere to put your efforts and your energies and all those things, because you can't be part of this great organization. And so we started Team Eimer PAC to continue the work that I was doing with the RNC in 2024 with the youth team and keep that going. So that is currently, I also hold elected office. So if you ever see me referred to as the Honorable, it's because I'm elected publicly. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. So with that, I'm gonna open it up for quick announcements. I know we had some petitions. Shumei, do you want to talk about those? I think everybody that wanted to sign probably already did, but just in case.
We're representing Protect Kids Colorado. It's a ballot initiative. We need 200,000 signatures to get just 3 issues on the 2026 ballot. It's to protect kids from irreversible sex change surgery as minors. It's to put people who traffic children in prison. And the other one is to, yeah, right, actually have them go. For life. Yeah. And then, because in Colorado, we don't even put them in, they get probation, they just skip that right out the door. And the other one is to protect girls' sports, to have biological boys not play in sports with girls. And if you guys didn't sign it, we'd love to have your signatures. And if you'd like to carry petitions, I have them here and I can give you a set. It's only 40 signatures that you need to collect, and then we'll connect with you and get them back to headquarters. But yeah, this is the only way we can pass legislation here in Colorado. I work for Rep. Bradley, and we can't pass any bills. So the only way to do it here in Colorado is through our Constitution with the state of Colorado, and that's to do ballot initiatives. So that's how we can protect kids. So if you haven't signed it, we'll connect with me and I'll get you a thing to sign, okay?
Which, speaking of Representative Bradley, how many of you in here know of what happened with her son Cole? So, if you are not aware, State Representative Bradley, her son Cole was involved in a very bad motorcycle accident over a month ago now.
Yeah.
It was the same day as Charlie was shot.
It was the day, after.
Day after. Yeah, the 11th. It was 9/11. He just recently got discharged from the hospital and is in rehab now. But just please, if you would, continue to lift up Representative Bradley and her family. It's very hard. Cole has sustained a lot of injuries, and he's very lucky to be alive. And so we're all grateful for that. She's still in our thoughts and prayers. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other announcements before we get going? I know I saw signs for a Cherry Creek School Board person.
Yeah, anybody that wants a yard sign, if you're in Cherry Creek area, I'd like to take any. And there's also some flyers there for you.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What is the Arapahoe Tea Party?
The Arapahoe Tea Party. So, are you familiar with the Tea Party in general?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Arapahoe Tea Party was founded by Randy Corcoran, what, 20-some? 18 years ago.
Used to
Yeah.
be held at a library.
Yeah. And formed a local chapter of the Tea Party through Tea Party Patriots Action, which is the parent organization, led by Jenny Beth Martin. And so Arapahoe Tea Party was created, and we hold monthly meetings with typically a guest speaker that's either an elected official or somebody that has, some type of platform. We've hosted people like Congressman Louis Gohmert. We've hosted Jenny Beth Martin before. We've hosted, so far, multiple of the candidates for governor of Colorado, the Republican ones that are the front runners. We've got a couple more that need to come see us still. But that's Arapahoe Tea Party. So we work to get people engaged and activated and out into the fields and out working and getting involved in the party, because one thing we like to say all the time is you can complain about an issue all you want, but if you want to affect real change, you've got to get involved, right? And the only way to make that change is to get involved from within. And those of us that have been in the game long enough have learned that that's how it works. So that's what we're here to do. So I hope that answers your question.
Sure does.
Okay. Any other questions or announcements before we get started?
Tim Tebow had a lot to do with it at the beginning.
Oh, really?
I just saw him last weekend
Oh, awesome.
at the, whatever that was down in Colorado Springs.
Oh, Victor Mark's announcement, yeah. Any other comments, questions, or announcements?
I just have these ribbons if anybody wants them.
Oh, yes.
In memory of Charlie.
All right.
I was very shocked at the Republican Women's Luncheon. I was the only one that was wearing red.
Today?
So that's how
I would have worn red, but I wore my Freedom shirt, so.
Well, I have the Freedom shirt too.
I would have wore red. Today, Turning Point was inviting everybody to wear red in honor of Charlie. If you couldn't, wear
And then they sent me the
something.
one black with pink Freedom. And then they sent me another one and I'm going, am I supposed to wear one like 4 hours a day?
You rotate through them in and out. But I get
So
it.
I have several in my car in case.
There you go. So with that, Mom, you wanted to say a few words. So this is my mom, Laurel Eimer. Most of you probably know her. If you don't, I'm sure she'll introduce herself. But Mom, take it away from me.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Darn, I was so excited to engage with some people of, I'm gonna close this, can I do it not damage? I'm
Just
too
go
short.
all the way down.
I'm too short to see over it. Wanted to engage with some people who had some differing opinions. So y'all have to think about maybe something that we can talk about that, would be engaging tonight since they didn't show up. But that's what they do. See, they make their threats and typically people back down. I mean, I can name at least 2 events in Jefferson County that have been canceled in the last year because of Antifa and left threats towards persons attending those events that caused the leadership that was hosting those events to cancel them. Because they were scared and they decided that they didn't want to engage, they couldn't get security, they were worried, and so they canceled. And that is fundamentally opposite of what Charlie Kirk stood for. He was never afraid to stand out in front of a crowd, regardless of the action or reaction. And we need to be more like Charlie every day. So my name's Laurel Eimer. Yes, I just wanted to welcome those of you that are here for the first time. So I assume of those of you who are new, you got the email, or how did you hear about it tonight?
Email.
The email? Okay. And is it specifically the Charlie Kirk piece that brought you? Was it the debate piece that brought you? Or you were just bored on a Tuesday? I'm just curious. The Charlie? Was it specifically the Charlie piece of it? Yeah, I was just curious. I just wanted to mention a couple things. So Weston and I have Team Eimer Pack, for those of you who don't know. And one of the things that we do every year prior to election cycle is put out a voter guide. That will be forthcoming. We've already been receiving calls. Everyone is anxious to get their ballots in immediately. And so we're a little late on that, and I apologize, but we've had some other things we've been dealing with. But we will have our voter guide out hopefully by this weekend, I think, that will give you our ideas for any ballot initiatives and or races across the state. If you do desire to have your ballot in before we get our guide out, you are welcome to call Weston or I, and we can help answer questions. But we snuff out, because a lot of these races in this cycle for 25 are nonpartisan, and so without doing research, you don't have any way to know who you're actually voting for. And so we do that research for you so that you can feel confident if you want to vote for a conservative in any of those seats. If there is a conservative running in those seats, that you can place your vote there. And so we will be happy to help you do that. So I just wanted to mention that. And just thank you for coming. And, ask questions tonight. Like I said, we may kind of change the program up a little bit just because those who said they were coming to debate us did not. But as you see, we're still here. We did inquire about bringing security in. We just decided that, we weren't going to be afraid. We weren't going to be fearful because we don't live in fear. And Weston and I were honored to attend the memorial for Charlie Kirk in Phoenix, as he said. It was very, very difficult. He was a dear friend to both of us, and we watched him grow his organization. We've been an integral part of it for many, many years, and it's very difficult. And so we carry a lot of emotions around that. So it's very personal. He was not just a figurehead to us. He was a dear friend, and so just bear with us tonight, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right. With that, I have to ask any candidates in the room? No. Okay. So with that, we marketed this as a prove me wrong. So We're going to change it up a little bit, do Ask Me Anything. So I'm hoping you guys came prepared with something that you wanted to argue with me about. If not, this is going to be the shortest Arapahoe Tea Party meeting in the history of our organization. So if you have something, please stand up and let's get this started.
Communication or, back and forth, election integrity issues. Easily there's 12 different ways to go. What particular election, stolen election kind of stuff, do you support or think should be done first?
Gotcha.
Like I've got, my stuff that I can throw at you.
Yeah.
I'll start off this way.
I appreciate you taking the leap of faith and starting the interaction. So obviously election integrity is a very near and dear issue to all of our hearts, okay? Obviously 2020 was rigged. If you did not see the news this week, Dominion Voting Systems has been bought out and is now becoming Liberty Voting, and they're shutting down all the online digital voting BS that has happened. We're going back to paper ballots at Dominion Voting Systems. So, yes, that is good.
I heard that Liberty is a hedge fund.
Yeah, I've heard some pushback on that.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Just in the last day.
Either way, they've been bought out, and we're going back to paper ballots, which I'm going to be happy about. I'm going to choose to be happy about that. But
For Dominion voting,
the election integrity question, there's
shut them down.
there's a lot of difficult stuff about that, right? You've got the folks that say, why vote anymore? Because it's going to be rigged, right? And we've had that issue come up many times over the last election cycles, especially in 2024, and doing stuff with the RNC, we faced it firsthand, especially since we were pushing early voting, right? Which this last election, we had the most early voting ballot returns for the Republican Party in the history of early voting. And we won the election in a landslide, right? Won all 7 swing states. So when it comes to pushing the election integrity issue, personally, I shy away from bringing it up because the more we remind people about how 2020 was stolen from us, the less confidence they have in their vote mattering when it comes down to voting in an election that we need them to. And so it's a fine line to walk. Yes, I agree, a lot needs to be done, but in order to do that, we have to win elections, right? And we've been passing legislation in the federal government side to require voter ID to end the illegal aliens voting in our elections around the country. And so I think that while we're in power, continuing to push our elected officials to do the right thing and end the mass mail-in voting and all those things, try and get that passed. But right now, we don't have enough votes to overcome a filibuster, right? So we got to win these Senate races in 2026. We've got to get rid of John Hickenlooper in the Senate in 2026 here. And if we want to make those changes and push those election integrity issues, we've got to win elections. So focusing that election integrity passion into candidate support and candidate outreach, I think is what we should be doing right now. Go ahead.
I encourage you not to shy away from getting the discussion out there, but do it in a way that it doesn't discourage people. The biggest way to do it is getting the facts out there, the true facts out there, so that they know what's going on, so they can make a decision which way and what way works best to vote.
Definitely.
The too big to rig helped. They got enough votes and stuff out there that pushed stuff overcame the cheating. The biggest numbers that come up on getting enough that's to overcome the cheating, it's roughly 10% that gets the algorithms and stuff that you hear about. That 10% is about what gets cheated, and it increases roughly 10% every year. So if you get too big to rig to overcome the 10%, you can win.
Yep.
That, one statement you can use to get the vote out there.
Yeah, for sure.
On the Dominion, you said the paper ballots, they were going paper ballots. I hadn't heard or seen that.
It was in, it was actually in a CNN article, which hard to believe, but CNN wrote a piece on it about this company bought it out, and their statement was no more voting machines, we're going back to paper ballots. And now there's been some concern highlighted apparently in the past 24 hours. I wasn't aware of that, but yeah.
I find that hard to believe.
I know.
But
I know.
especially coming from CNN, but
I know.
Colorado is Dominion.
Yes.
Well, but it won't be because because this new company has bought them out. So it will now be Liberty Votes.
But if
And
they're doing
so-
it, going
so-
to paper,
So, yeah,
And
so.
they're still in flux,
It's-
so,
yeah, so
but
it's
we can tell
just-
you that that is legitimate, it did happen, we don't know the full extent
Right,
of
it
it
was
yet.
just happened in the last
Yeah.
72 hours.
Yeah,
It's very
it's
new.
been a very
Very
quick
new.
moving situation. Diane, yes
Because
ma'am?
they bought out Dominion, and Dominion, they're not gonna have Dominion out there. It's a Dominion counting machines that have the algorithms that have been a huge part of the problem. So, we've taken a big step forward.
Right.
Now, if we get Republicans and unaffiliateds to vote their conscience, which is nothing that the Democrats believe in, we'll get more votes too. And so, everything hopefully is snowballing in the right direction.
something to keep in mind, if it's true that the machines are going away, Arapahoe County, the machines, if
Well-
they're going away, they're going to Han County,
Well, Dominion's going away. Not every county here in
Uses
Colorado or
Uses Dominion,
in the other 49
Uses
states
Dominion.
use
Yeah.
Dominion.
We don't know
But
what it means for
hopefully-
Colorado.
Colorado is, all but one county has Dominion machines.
I
The
know
one
that.
county that doesn't have machines.
Well,
But
So,
all
I heard there's a
63
couple other
do.
machines
Yeah,
too, but that's
definitely.
besides the
But
point.
we'll
Hopefully they'll
see
take
what,
it.
we'll see what comes of it, you know, we don't know what it means for Colorado, right?
Yeah.
But we do know Dominion voting is no
One of the
more.
things that was
So,
highlighted in it
yeah.
was about the algorithm and about the access for the online or internet access going to foreign powers, right? That was one of the things that the article talked about, that will be local, that loophole will be closed. So it's very much in flux, it's just been 72 hours, but I've seen pushback in the last 24, so we're gonna be actively following that. So I just encourage you to follow it and see what,
And I'll have
see what
more-
direction, we'll learn
And I'll
more as
have
we
more
go.
details
What
next
I
month.
heard on Liberty or whatever that bought it,
Mm-hmm.
it's renaming, whatever, covering up liability issues to kind of go away. And that was it. Nothing about going to paper ballots.
Well, that's what the original article says, so yeah.
The
again,
original article
So
said
that-
paper
that's
ballots.
seen,
Yeah.
which you,
Yeah.
Well, if they
I
take
can
them out of
almost guarantee
service,
that's false
if they take them
information.
out of service, then
Well,
presumably
so let-
they'll paper ballots.
Yeah.
Like, there are other companies out there,
Yeah,
but they
you
use the
heard about
same
Fox, yeah.
algorithms, the same corruption.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether it's Dominion or ES&S or Smartmatic or
Yeah.
Right.
any of the other ones out there.
And
They're all
it sounds
crap.
like this gentleman heard it confirmed on Fox
Fox,
too.
yeah, he
And
heard it
Fox
on Fox.
doesn't run anything
And it
without
was
confirming it from
Newsmax.
2 different sources, and Sue
It was
heard it on
on
Newsmax.
Yeah.
So it is
So
legitimate.
it is
So-
legitimate, it's just whether or
yes.
not,
Give it time.
what's
Yes.
gonna happen.
And this is exactly the talk about election integrity that I am afraid of happening, right? This is why I shy away from election integrity discussion, because it devolves quickly. There's a lot of second guessing and refusal to believe what is said about it when there is facts about it, right? And those are legitimate facts, right? Now, we all agree that the media will cover up the fact that 2020 was stolen. And we all know it happened. We watched it in real time. We watched that chart in Georgia go F for fraud, right? We watched it happen.
You go to
But
bed at midnight. and
exactly,
then
go to bed at
you
midnight
wake
when
up.
Trump's winning, and you wake up at 3 a.m. and all of a sudden Biden's president. Something was wrong there, right? So while we don't know the full extent of this, we do know that it has been confirmed they're getting rid of their voting machines, which means the state of Colorado is going to have to recalibrate for 2025 and 2026 and have a new voting method, more or less, right? And that hopefully means hand-counted paper ballots. But I want to get to other
And
questions.
with it saying 2025, that's.
Well, yeah, I don't think it'll
We
happen
don't know
in
what'll
25,
happen this year,
because
but
I don't think it'll
at
happen.
least next year, if there's changing the company the way it works, I can guarantee you next year it'll be a different method.
If it's going to paper,
How
We
comfortable
need-
are we with papers? My brother lives in Mexico, he retired in Mexico, 2020, he got 2 ballots in there.
Exactly.
My
And
son
that,
has
that's
never
about
And I remember you
voted.
bringing that to
voter
me.
rolls.
I got 2 ballots.
And that's the Secretary of State problem. And there was talk this week of referring our Secretary of State, Jenna Griswold, over to the DOJ for prosecution for leaking the BIOS passwords.
Right.
So there's that happening, right?
Finally.
But let's get on to some more questions because I'm sure that there's more in this room.
I just wanted to say, I've been involved with the Aurora elections,
Mhm.
and all the people are asking their people, when they get their ballot, fill it out and take it to a drop box. Do not put it in the mail, put it in a drop box. And with, this year I'm not working with Arapahoe County, but last year I did. And we count everything. I mean, it's handled like 8 times from the time they drop it in that drop box into our building, and then it goes, it gets counted, and then it goes signature ID, and then it comes someplace else. And,
Just go and vote in person.
See, so yeah, and this is, again, election integrity
They'll give you a new
questions.
ballot, you vote it there, you vote
Yeah,
it in the box.
go in, vote in person. Still vote early, but vote in person, as Diane was just saying. They will take your old ballot and
You don't
say,
even need to bring your own ballot, you
Literally.
don't discuss ballots,
you-
you
but
just say,
you
I'm
can-
there, here's my ID, I want a
yeah,
ballot, they'll give you a
exactly.
ballot.
They'll give you a ballot, you vote it right there,
There's no
there you go,
discussion.
problem solved, end of discussion. You know it was secure, it was safe, you did it, they checked your ID in person, you put it in a box, and it was tabulated, right? And, you know, did anybody else notice how fast we had results this last election?
Yeah.
By 9 p.m., we knew who the president was.
That
Well,
was-
not 9, it
That
was
was
1.
that was the vote early,
Right?
that was the bank
the
to
vote
vote.
early.
Yep.
Because when your ballot is turned in early, it's counted at that time. It's counted every day when those ballots are turned
Not
in early.
everywhere, not everywhere.
Not everywhere, but in many states, it's counted the day you turned it in. Here in Colorado, it is counted the day you turned it in. And so that's why our elections get called so fast. And then on top of that, we had early results in 2024 with President Trump's election. So that was huge. Yes.
You're incorrect.
I know, I could have swore our ballots were
I
counted.
work Arapahoe County election, done it for the last few years. The ballots don't get counted till election day, supposedly. They get run through the machines to get verified that they're good ballots, but they don't get counted.
That is the count, they just don't release it.
Yeah, they just don't
No,
release
they-
the count.
They
Because
count on election day.
so I'll tell you firsthand, I've been in Colorado elections for 10 years, right, on the upper level. I received ballot tabulation numbers every day during an election season that's ever, like the moment early balloting opens and ballot returning opens to election day, I get an email every night from the Secretary of State and the county clerks of every county in the state giving me the vote total difference between Republican, Democrat, and unaffiliated vote returns, right? So,
Ballot
and
returns.
actually it's not even unaffiliated, so just give me Republican and Democrat of how many Republican ballots they received and how many Democrat ballots they received. So they don't give me a exact count, but they give me a percentage that says we have received 40% Democrat and 30% Republican back, right? And they split it up however, so they do count it, they just maybe don't count who you voted for, but they identify it as a Republican ballot and they identify it's a Democrat ballot, so that tells me they count the
Well,
vote.
and
The ballots,
Okay, we don't need to
Yeah.
split hairs over this.
But yeah, and this is exactly what I was saying earlier, when
the
we talk
truth needs to get
Yeah.
out. You need to get the truth out. Tell the people
Yeah.
the truth. If you dodge away from it, it ain't gonna
The
get
truth
there.
is,
You
go
gotta-
vote in person.
And yeah, and I'm not shying away from any issue, but my point is that,
They count the
If we-
ballots,
if we
but
go
they
down-
don't count the votes.
So
okay.
there's a difference between ballots
And
and
that's,
votes.
that's what we're saying as well, is that they identify if it's a Republican ballot, and they identify if it's a Democrat ballot, which means they know how you voted, because there's no voter registration ID on your ballot. There's no way to say on your ballot itself that this person's a Republican, this
It's
person's a
the
Democrat.
envelope.
It's the envelope that determines it, right? So they've at least gone that far, but I can tell you that those voter reports I receive, it tells me that you've received X Republican ballots and
And
X
we know-
Democrat ballots, and they don't identify unaffiliated. So that tells me they're opening the envelope and counting the ballot, and,
But
you know,
that's also how we know who
No.
voted, because when we are
Exactly.
chasing votes, when we have teams of people chasing votes, and when you get an email and a text and your phone is ringing all the way up until election day because you haven't voted yet, that's how we know that you haven't voted yet,
exactly.
because the vote has not, your ballot has not been received and tallied. They may not look at the actual vote tabulation on the ballot, but they have definitely received the ballot and counted the
They
ballot.
scan the envelope when it comes in.
Yeah.
And then it goes, and then
That's how
and then
we
the
know.
ballot gets removed from the envelope and goes through the counting machine.
Right, right.
So it is two separate steps.
Yes.
And they
If you
won't
vote
tell,
in person,
yeah.
They log your name in and so that they know you voted, so they don't have to scan an envelope.
Because then every night we get a report that says, this is the remainder of outstanding ballots, here's the names, right? But, again, I don't wanna get too into the weeds on election integrity, because we'll talk about it all night. But I'm always happy to talk about it offline about it more, but that's what I can tell you from personal experience. Exactly, we're moving in the right direction, we're winning elections, which is the paramount issue, so we're winning elections.
And
So
Colorado's not a
we
blue
gotta
state,
keep,
too.
exactly, we are not blue, we are red except for Denver, Boulder, Jeffco, and the metro area. All right, who's next?
I guess I'll just bring it up. To answer your question, my mom just forwarded it, so I don't know if she's been getting emails or anything, so I was like, oh, this is 2 minutes from my house. I used to be a part of Arapahoe County. I'm on that bridge across the street's Denver, and I'm in
You don't
Denver.
have to live in Arapahoe County.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're actually in Jeffco.
Yeah, I'm from Jeffco, I'm just chair it.
So, more school issues there, but anyways, kids are homeschooled.
I was too.
Yes. It's amazing what happens.
Exactly.
You probably know Nick Rogers then, Big Timber Lodge, maybe not. He's becoming more prevalent, at least on YouTube.
Who? Speak up.
Nick Rogers.
Heard the name.
He was at Marx's thing down in Springs, because he's down there. He just did a 15-minute video the other day about how Colorado's not as blue. I think it was a CNN poll or somewhere, and it was like barely blue. He's like, we're doing good. Ava got confirmed down in the Springs, which was nice to hear. But he was going over some of the election stuff too, and he just had a good 15-minute video. I don't really have too much more, but it was good to see some of the data that he had brought to the attention. It was like, oh, here's a brand new poll. We're a pale blue. And yeah, it's because of all the deep blue cities. So,
Exactly.
I personally don't get super involved with any of this. I just wanted to come meet people like-minded. And
But your kids are homeschooled, so you're very involved because
I
you're
was-
paying attention.
I was homeschooled myself until high school, and then even then I went to a small charter school. And the way everything's been going, I'm like, my kids aren't stepping in front of going into school.
Yep.
I work in the schools periodically, and I'm still like, I'm good. So,
Well,
I just appreciate you guys putting this on and Heidi having open invite.
Well, thank you. We're grateful to have you, and thank you for homeschooling your kids. I am a homeschool graduate myself, and I wouldn't be where I am today, and I would never have met Charlie Kirk and had the relationship I had with him had I not been homeschooled. Some of you may have heard this story, and if I'm repeating myself, I'm sorry. But back in 2019, no, it was 2019, summer of 2019, I was invited down to Phoenix, to Turning Point headquarters, for the chapter leadership summit. So at that time, they had a small headquarters building, it wasn't all that big. They invited 75 chapter leaders from across the country. I was the sole homeschool chapter leader that got invited. And I went down there, and it was a week-long thing. They opened it up with a huge pool party at the Arizona Grand Resort. It was a great time. We were all having fun, and then it was training on how to be an activist, how to get involved, how to speak in public, how to debate, how to table, how to recruit, anything that you could think. They taught you, and it was hands-on teaching from Charlie and Tyler Boyer and the people over at Turning Point USA. And at the end of that, I mean, I had already known Charlie, I'd already met Charlie. Charlie asked me to form a chapter. And at the end of that meeting, I was privileged to be able to sit down with Charlie for over 2 hours, one-on-one. And I had asked him, because my motto, and my mom will tell you this, is my motto has always been, all they can say is no. Like from the first day of the Trump campaign, when I was singing at his first rally in Colorado, I sang America the Beautiful at Wings Over the Rockies back in 2016. I asked if I could meet him, and they said no. But then, 2 weeks later, I gave a speech at Mike Pence's rally here in downtown Denver, and I asked if I could meet him, and they said yes, right? So it's one of those things where it's like, you have to ask the question. So I asked Charlie if, after the conference, because I was staying an extra day, I said, do you have time that we could sit down and talk? I'm a homeschool chapter leader and I don't know how to get kids. I don't know how to grow my chapter because I'm homeschooled. I don't have a classmate, you know? And he said yes. And we sat down for over 2 hours in his office, one-on-one, and my mom was there. And in that meeting, he told me that he saw himself in me. And that motivated me. And my chapter grew. We ended up sponsoring kids to go to the Student Action Summit in Florida. We ended up sponsoring kids to go to America Fest in 2023, the first year they had it. And our chapter just exploded. We turned into an activism hub. We held events. We went to rallies. We recruited kids. I had a full, cabinet of my chapter, a vice president, a secretary, a treasurer. It was great. And it was all because Charlie took the time. And at that time, it was already a multi-million-dollar organization. He took the time to sit down and talk to me and engage with me and train me and gave me his phone number. And we talked ever since, So homeschooling, that's what brought us together. That's what turned me into the man I am today. And I am very thankful to my mother. Or you can. She taught me. So, but yeah, it also gave me the ability to pursue my politics. Right? And to really dedicate myself to learning that and reading the books and educating myself, because I didn't need to know third level trigonometry to tell you how to win an election. Right? I didn't need fourth level algebra to count the amount of ballots that I'm waiting to see turned in, or what I work in the car business now, and what your down payment is. I didn't need that, right? I needed real hands-on, real-world experience on how to pay my taxes. And I got that, right? All right, I saw your hand up, sir.
Oh, yeah, I've got a couple of quick questions. I don't know if you can hear me. Kind of in the middle of, but speaking of election integrity, is there any update on Tina Peters?
She had posted a video a couple of weeks ago and released a statement that had come out just asking for prayer and continued support. I know the DOJ was looking into what they could do to try and help free her, but the problem is the president can't really do much. They charged her state level. So
yeah, no, I realize
It's
that.
up to the governor.
yeah, it's up to Polis, which good luck.
As far as the Tea Party, is there anything we can do? Is she
Write a letter to
funding
Polis.
or?
Unfortunately, I know that Mary Thunberg, who occasionally pops up at our meetings when she runs around the state like a chicken with her head cut off, she is able to facilitate getting commissary donations to Tina, because they were asking for that, of helping with her commissary fund. And if you would like that information, I'll get it to you after the meeting. Okay. But you can donate to her that way. And then her legal team is still fighting. And the other thing is write to Governor Polis. I mean, ask him to pardon her or commute her, at least commute her sentence, or put her on house arrest. I don't care, just get her out of prison, right? That's the goal. Obviously, we want to pardon her commutation, but if house arrest is the compromise, then house arrest it is. Then at least she's at home and she can be outside in the sun and be safe, right? I mean, she's over 70 years old and locked up in prison. It's not fair. Okay. Yes, did you have another question before I move on?
I did, yeah.
Okay, go for it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Getting back to the Charlie Kirk assassination, has anybody seen that Candace Owens documentary on that? Do you have a comment on that? Where they have the FBI that's got the wrong guy in custody?
I don't doubt it.
I am treading carefully on that situation because, and I'm going to preface anything I say here because, no offense, but I'm being filmed. And I allowed that, but I'm being filmed, so I have to say this. I am not currently involved with Turning Point USA or Turning Point Action. I do not represent them or their organization in any way, shape, or form. And I preface that with, for this reason, I don't totally believe what Candace is saying, but I also see the errors in the story that the FBI and the DOJ is putting out.
Right.
Now, I am not going to say anything to compromise the investigation and the prosecution of Charlie's assassin, right? But he is innocent until proven guilty. We have to remember that. And right now, the burden of proof that the FBI has been ordered to provide the American people by President Trump is not matching up wholly. There are holes in the story, right? There was the plane thing that Candace had, and that got debunked. Then there was the text thread about Israel, and that got verified as true. So, I mean, there is a lot of moving parts to it. Go ahead.
Did you see the video of when Charlie Kirk actually got shot?
Yes.
Now, to me, it looks like he got shot from the front, through kind of sideways through the neck. The FBI is claiming he got shot in the back of the neck.
The video is pretty clear, especially if you slow it down, which, look, backtrack a little bit here.
I saw several different versions from different angles, and people were saying different things.
I personally can't watch it, okay, and there's a reason. When I heard Charlie got shot, I got a Fox News alert on my phone. Charlie Kirk shot at Utah Valley University. The first thing I did was call my mom. And then I started texting everyone at Turning Point. I texted Lauren Tonsich, the VP of Events. I texted Tyler Boyer, the Chief Operating Officer of Turning Point Action. I texted Brandon Schubert, who was our regional representative here for a long time. I texted everybody that I knew in the organization still that I had a good relationship with, and I texted and texted and texted and texted until finally somebody responded, and they sent me that video. And I watched that video, and I knew then my friend was dead. There was no doubt. No one survives that. I wish I never had to see it. I dropped my phone on the floor, and I just fell to my knees. So, but it's different when you know the man that is now dead on your phone, right? It's way different. So I have not rewatched it, and I will not rewatch it. But they had put the original clip, and then they slowed it down, and you can see when Charlie is shot, the shock wave from the bullet go across his body from left to right, and his entire body feels the shockwave of that impact. There is no doubt in my mind he was shot from the left. The FBI is now contradicting that. I don't know what they're doing, but they clearly didn't look at the video that we all had to see of our friend and mentor and ally in the movement getting murdered in broad daylight. There was lots of cameras at that thing. You can't tell me they don't have proof of that. There's also the questions that Candace has raised about the rifle. My uncle is a pro marksman. My mom's boyfriend was what was his technical title from the Army?
I don't know. He was a weapons expert.
He was a weapons expert in the Army, like a master weapons expert. And neither one of them believed the narrative that the FBI is pushing on firearms. And with them, the caliber of the gun, I don't buy it, right? None of us do. So there are questions, there are holes in the story. I am, however, until I'm presented with legitimate concrete proof of otherwise, that man did not kill Charlie, I am not going to come out and say that he didn't do it. But I am still remaining open-minded to new evidence, and I am watching the Candace stuff. Turning Point has asked that she pipe down, because she's jeopardizing the investigation and the prosecution the more she talks, because she's still involved with Turning Point. And so they have sent her cease and desist letters, and she's bucking them. And the last thing I want to see her do is her get proved wrong, right? Which is the whole point of why we're here tonight, prove me wrong. I don't want to see her get proved wrong and him get let go scot-free because she provided reasonable doubt to the jury, right? We have to remember this. They have to prove this beyond a reasonable doubt, and everything that Candace is saying is giving more reasonable doubt to that jury when they select it. And it's a risk that we can't take. So I ask you not air it out there in public more. If you know people in Arizona or in Utah that are going to be on that jury, let's not air it there, but remain vigilant. That's all I can say. Yes, sir. Let's get to your question.
So my question has to do with your personal and professional opinion on what we can do with better prison reform here in Colorado. You mentioned the issue there with like people with their commissary and such. There was recently a meeting where there are currently actions being pended here in Colorado because Colorado prisons tend to use the people that are incarcerated in there for what is essentially slave labor. But I also want to know what your opinion is on that particular matter and what we can do to make our prison system and our justice system here in Colorado work better, not just for people who are victims of crime, but also for the people who are justice impacted,
Yeah.
who are incarcerated.
Yeah, so obviously prison reform is not one of my major issues, but I'll try my best to answer your question to the best of my ability. First things first, backtrack to President Trump's first term. He passed the First Step Act, right, which was prison reform. And then you had Joe Biden do his version of prison reform, which was pardoning a bunch of people, that some of which didn't deserve to be pardoned. But to your point of prison reform, it is a necessity. There is a problem in our prison systems. Just last year, everybody was talking about the multiple dead inmates at Jefferson County Sheriff's Office in their prison there that were dying while in their care for different reasons, right? And there was a class action lawsuit filed against the Sheriff's Office, right? So we definitely are seeing some type of issue going on in our prison system. I don't know the answer to fix it. What I can say is that we do have a president in office right now that is committed to that. We have a first lady in there that is committed to supporting those people. And my hope is that we continue to see that prison reform going forward. To your point about slave labor, I don't know much on that, so I'm not going to comment. Obviously, if it is happening, that should not be happening. We should be paying our inmates at least for their commissary fund, right? They're not going to make minimum wage. They're incarcerated. But my understanding of the prison system, you're always paid like 10 cents an hour or whatever is my knowledge, that was how it worked, right? And you worked up a fund. And
He was getting 14 cents an hour.
yeah, see, 14 cents an hour, right? You get enough to earn towards buying a candy bar or a phone call or whatever, right? So if they're not paying their inmates, that's definitely something that needs to be looked at, but I have not seen that personally and I can't confirm or deny. But did that answer your question?
To an extent.
Okay.
With how the justice system is handled here in Colorado, what specific changes would you like to make to that?
Get rid of all the Democrats.
That's step one. Let's get rid of Democrat district attorneys. This is a funny question, actually, because it's very personal at this moment, and I won't share why. But the justice system in Colorado, from personal experience, is not blind, okay? And it is not equal scales that balance out, right? In Colorado, I've seen firsthand that the county or the city or the district attorney, whatever it is, puts the power to the police officer to make the decision on if charges should be filed or not, right? So here in Colorado, you can call your local police department, you can call your sheriff's office and say, I'd like to file a police report and I'd like to press charges on this individual for X, Y, and Z reason. You can provide them with a mile-long list of evidence, and they're going to say, well, I don't see it the way you see it. I'm not going to charge them. They'll still take your complaint. They're required by law to take your complaint. But they won't press charges if you say you want charges pressed, because to them, they only want the secure conviction. They only want the one that, like, we caught this guy with the gun in his hand and he shot her. Right? They want that they can send that person to prison like that. Give it to the DA, they get a collar under their belt, they're happy, okay? Personal, experience of a story that I know about is somebody got charged with harassment. The other individual was just as guilty of that said harassment, and they only charged one individual. They didn't charge both. That other individual called, tried to press charges. They said, well, we chose to charge you at the time and we're sticking with it. They will not charge the other individual in the case, right? So now, you may know what the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution is. Who wants to quote it for me? This is your knowledge test. I'm going to be like Charlie and I'm going to ask you to quote the Constitution. What's the 14th Amendment? Anybody but my mother. Speak up. I can't hear you.
14th is citizenship.
Nope.
No.
No? So that's 16th?
Anybody?
Right to a speedy trial?
Nope. Anybody else? You get 3 shots, so you got 1 more. Okay, Mom, go
Equal
for it.
protection under the law.
Equal protection under the law, right? So now this person's case is going to become a 14th Amendment case because equal application and equal protection were not applied in this case, right? So this goes back to your point of justice reform. We need the eyes of justice to be covered again and make it blind, which is what it's supposed to be, and not prejudiced, right? That we see that across the board, and I'm not talking about George Floyd here. I'm talking about the prejudicial nature of, if you were made the aggressor when you also were a victim, they won't mix those two together. They won't go to bat for you equally. And that's not what justice is supposed to be, right? Good friend of mine is Harmeet Dillon. She's in charge of the Human Rights Division at the DOJ right now. She is fighting the good fight for us, and hopefully she'll make some points about it, and I'll flag the stuff in Colorado for her. I actually flagged something else recently for her that was pretty appalling. I can't remember what, but yeah. Does that answer everything you had?
May I answer?
Well, you can interject if you'd like, briefly.
So, I think part of the answer to your question is that we're missing the piece of why they're incarcerated in the first place, which is mental health issues. So that's really the key to prison reform, is separating mental health issues and care for mental health versus incarceration. Because that's the issue. We have many, many people in our system that should be somewhere else, incarcerated in a different type of facility for their safety, someone else's safety, because of a mental health issue, not because they are a criminal. But right now, because what we've done is we've made those kind of institutions not acceptable, the only alternative that we have is to do nothing, which then puts people at harm, themselves in harm way, leaves them on the streets, homeless or whatever, or incarcerated. So to me, that has to come full circle, and that's the piece that we're missing when we talk about prison reform, is what's causing that in the first place. And we know the statistics are there to tell us that a huge majority is caused by mental illness.
Thank you. That is my pseudo speaker. But
some of those violent criminals.
Some of them
have
are,
mental
absolutely.
problems.
Absolutely.
And they've got to be incarcerated.
And they do. But then there are others that are not, and they are clogging up our system and that's why we have the catch and release and just give them bail and turn them loose, because there's no place to put them. And so we have to differentiate what is true criminals that need to be incarcerated and where people need other types of help. But we have stigmatized mental health and, putting people in those facilities and made it impossible to separate. And that's where I think we need to really focus our attention.
But the ways of violent crime is what has to be a dictating force and where they go.
Yes. Oh, yes.
You can't just say, oh, they need mental health and let them out.
Agreed.
I think it has to do.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I think it really has to do with I think there's really three things there. There are people who have mental health issues. Then there's addiction issues, and then actual psychopathy or criminal issues.
Yes.
And I find sometimes here in Colorado, people are innocent until proven poor. There's a lot of issues with that too.
Yes.
But yeah, those three things.
You're right about substance abuse is a huge part of that as well.
Yes, it is.
Huge part of that.
I got a perfect example for you of a we got lucky situation, right? My father, you probably will never hear me talk about him except for in this story, because he was not a good man. Let's just put it that way. They got divorced, and it was the happiest day of my life. Thank you, Randy
Mine
Corcoran.
too.
Yeah. You should see the ring she bought after the divorce. Anyways, so her divorce ring. But my father and I were estranged after the divorce for right around 5 years. When all of a sudden I got a call that he was found unresponsive in his truck in Fort Collins, and they needed next of kin. Well, come to find out, he had gone from having one bad substance abuse issue to another, became a raging alcoholic, and developed Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome. Luckily, he wasn't found out on the street doing anything dangerous, so they brought him to the hospital, right? But the sheriff's office was involved, and they made it hell because he was a substance abuse victim, right? And in that moment, I'm trying to, gather the information and get his truck keys from them and recover the truck that they had taken in and, all those things. and they refused to give me information. And it felt like I was being judged because of my father's actions that I now at, how old was I at the time? 19?
18,
Yeah, 18, 19 years old, I'm now having to pick up the pieces of my father's life that he's trashed, right? And the police were no help to me. I finally found a nice deputy in Weld County that actually helped me. But it took me a week before I finally got to that point because the hands of justice, the first line of defense, refused to help a victim, right? And so there definitely is a need for reform. But, and you're right, substance abuse is an issue, mental health is an issue, and then there's the real crime, right? And mental health issues contribute to crime. Let's bring up the transgender issue, okay? Let's bring up the victim, or the assassin of Charlie Kirk, okay? Corrupted by the transgender manifesto movement, and he goes out and kills Charlie Kirk, okay? We have a person in our family that has transitioned. And we are petrified because this person is a gun fanatic, right? And we see all these shootings from these transgender individuals, and it worries us every day. We go to bed going, oh my God, tomorrow it could be this person, right? And it's petrifying. And we have a mental health crisis in America that contributes to these crimes, and we see it every day, day in and day out. Just so you know, I am going to try and get us out of here a little early since we didn't have anybody that wanted to prove me wrong. So I'm going to try and get us out of here by 8. But with that, we do pass the hat every month. So I'm going to pass this while we do our next round of questions. We'll start it down here. If you have anything you can contribute, we appreciate it. It helps us pay for snacks and food and goodies in the room and those kind of things. So none of it comes out of our own pocket. I hope you know we don't take that and go, woohoo! $20. No, it goes back into this meeting. So, and it was also why we were able to bring Louis Gomer down, because we had saved up enough money that we could help pay for the travel with him. So, you had your hand up, sir.
Well,
And Shuman,
I'd like you to go back to something you said earlier. You characterized law enforcement with a broad brush, that there are issues, corruption, whatever you wanted to label. Could you say that again?
So I wouldn't say that there's corruption in the ranks, but there is certainly, what I was talking about specifically is how the prosecutors, right, the prosecutors in these cases and the jurisdictions for, let's say, your local city police or your town police or your sheriff's office, they have put the power of whether or not to charge or not to charge an individual completely in the hands of the deputy or the officer or the agent, what have you. They don't even consult the district attorney before they make that evaluation.
Excuse me, how do you know that?
Personal experience, several times.
One experience?
Several.
Okay, well, you see what you just said. You've just included the entire population of law enforcement in the state of Colorado and said that that's the way it is. Well, that's not the way it is.
Okay.
I've been in law enforcement for 27 years. Okay. And that's not the way it is.
Okay. So would you
want
care
to
to
be
elaborate?
specific, or you want to retract what you just said? I would
Well,
appreciate that.
I can be specific, of course.
Okay.
Lakewood, Golden, Jeffco, Adams, Broomfield, all of those jurisdictions have been in the same boat.
Or in what same boat?
That I have either known people or myself been in a position where I've tried to bring a case, mind you, have consulted a lawyer before bringing it to the jurisdiction's attention, and they said, yes, you have a case, called the police, report it, press charges. And the deputies or the officers or the agent will make the determination then on if they're going to refer it for criminal charges, if they're going to press charges. And I personally have experienced it in Lakewood, Golden, and Jeffco. I have had friends that have experienced it in Broomfield, Adams, and all those places. Okay?
What you're saying, excuse me, is that you have a perception that they are not interested in taking a case. But you don't know what actually the reason is that they don't want to take the case. Could it be because the DA has told them we're not taking those kind of cases? Could it be because you were a minor when you were trying to get information in Fort Collins or whatever it was, and they weren't going to give you information because you were a minor? You were 18, you said.
I was not a minor when my father was in the hospital.
Okay, you said you were 18.
I was 19.
Okay. The point is.
And
that
18's not a minor.
I think that you're painting a very bad picture of law enforcement, and I think that you've had some unfortunate circumstances, but to put that label on everybody that wears a badge in the state of Colorado is
And
not
that's
right.
that's not my intent whatsoever.
Well,
But
that's the way
when
you
we're-
painted the picture.
Of
Very
course.
broad brush.
Yeah.
Here's what law enforcement does. They do this and they do this. That's the way you presented it.
Okay, understood.
Okay.
And I apologize for that. I will, as you said, be
Well, I'm
more
not looking
specific.
for an apology.
Yeah.
I'm looking for you to clarify
Yeah.
the fact
And
that
I-
you
and I
made
have.
a misspoke or an
Yeah.
allegation that wasn't accurate.
Yeah, and,
Okay.
and that I have. And I can tell you on multiple occasions that I have called to file either a harassment charge against someone that has sent threatening messages to me, or in some cases even death threats that I've received over my time in politics, that the sheriff's office would not investigate. They
Did they
wouldn't
tell you
even
why?
open an investigation. No, they just simply said, well, you
There-
don't have enough
there's
evidence,
probably a
right?
reason.
But the point that I'm making here is that when those calls were placed, it was out of genuine fear for our safety, right? And they refused
fully understand
to
that.
investigate it at all, right? And so there's I think a perception out there that when you call 911 or you call the non-emergency line and ask to speak to an officer, that it's like, it's not life or death right now, can someone call me back and talk to me about it, right? And you report a crime, like for example, I've received death threats, we've had our house egged, we've had our tires slashed, our cars vandalized, and the sheriff's office wouldn't even come out to collect any sort of evidence, right? They would just say, oh, well, there's probably nothing there. They probably didn't leave any signs. Mom can vouch for me on this. They probably didn't leave any fingerprints or foot impressions or anything. Oh, you have security camera footage? Okay, well, we probably don't need that. That was the answer we got from Jeffco time and time and time again, right? So I've seen it personally over the past 8 years of my life in the political world, that consistently that was the reaction. I'm not saying it is that way in every jurisdiction, but I hear stories that are very similar to ours when I'm out in the real world. And I do think there is a concern. I think that we need more good sheriffs like Darren Weekly to step up and run and win and lead and clean up the departments and make sure that the people that are wearing the badge, because we back the blue, I back the blue, right? I love our law enforcement, right? I mean, I sell cop cars. So there is that, right? I don't want this perception to get worse, right? But it's not just me that has it, and it's not just me that has that experience. And so that's the picture I'm trying to paint. No, and I'm not painting it across the board, right? But in my personal experience, in my local community, that's what's happened.
But you're not seeing the other side of the coin. You're making a decision or a perception that you have, and you're using that as a label, and that's not correct. You need to get the other side of the story. Why didn't the police officer want to respond if your house was egged? Why? There's got to be a reason.
But that's the point, they don't
share that information at the time, right?
You ask them,
Yes.
why won't you come out?
Yes.
And he'll give you an answer.
And the answer was, there probably is nothing there.
Well, maybe that's the perception that he had.
Yeah, and from the perception of the victim, though, right, from the other side of that coin, right, we're going to play the devil's advocate game. We would love the peace of mind of if they had come out and taken an evidence bag and collected that eggshell, right? Even if they don't run prints on it, at least they did it, right? At least we stood there and watched them do it. At least they took our security camera footage one time. They came and did it once. Every other time, they never did. And we have a full-scale security camera set up on the front of the house. We've got every angle, upside down, left, right, that you can think of. We captured these individuals. We gave them names. We gave them suspects. Nope.
Can I elaborate in a real life scenario as the victim? So the Back the Blue rally.
The what?
The Back the Blue rally that took place in Denver in 2018.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, so it was there was an organization that every year does a Back the Blue rally. I think it's in its 6th year, 7th year, Back the Blue. And this was
the pro-police
it was
rally.
the pro-police rally, and it was it wasn't 20, it was 2020, because it was during COVID.
It was 2020
It was
riot season.
It was 2020 and the season of riots. Season of the summer of love, of the riots of 2020. And we had the rally in downtown Denver, Civic Center Park. I was there, I was in attendance, he was there, he was in attendance. I was a candidate at the time. I was on the stage. We were just beginning the rally, we were preparing with the prayer and the national anthem. The rally was just beginning. We had been permitted to be there. The police were there on scene. And
Denver police and the sheriff's office.
We were ambushed by thousands of Antifa. They rushed us. They physically attacked us.
Throwing bags of urine, eggs, bricks,
Anything you can, weapons.
cans of soup,
they had
pots and
extendable.
pans.
I don't know what those are called. The wands that extend. Batons. They had batons. You name it. They had it. They were physically attacking. The police literally stood down and did nothing to protect us. I was a victim, a physical victim. My life was saved by an individual to this day that I still do not know whom. The only reason I know it was because I saw it later in a video. As I was attacked by a woman that rushed me, I actually stepped in to protect one of our people, Michelle Malkin. They were coming for her. This person was huge. They were going to kill her. I was almost as big as that person. So I took the brunt of it to protect Michelle while they got Michelle out. They took me down. I went off the stairs at the amphitheater to the concrete, and someone that I do not know placed their hand at the edge of the concrete and caught my head as I hit. Saved my life that day. And as I laid there bleeding, I looked up and there's a police officer standing above me. And I said, "Are you going to help me?" And he ignored me, as they did the entire group of people that were there and that were assaulted that day. Fast forward to a case. We brought charges. We tried to get.
We had photo and video evidence of the woman that assaulted her. Okay.
And
preface that.
Instead, the district court awarded the Antifa protesters awards for that day, and all of us were left with nothing.
And Denver never pursued who the individual was that hurt her that
And we
day.
had it all on video, we had everything. Our case was dropped, dismissed, never to be seen again. They were awarded money for their distress for attacking us. So this is one of those examples where we're talking about that justice needing to be blind again, because there was a perception that for whatever reason, the police were after the Antifa members. So in this case, the police were literally told to take a stand down order and not engage because they didn't want that perception that they were hurt, that they were attacking Antifa. And so because of that, they didn't protect anyone that day.
That's right.
They chose to just stand
answered
down.
your question. You just said that they were ordered. I don't know where you get that information.
But
But they were ordered not to react.
They were ordered not to react, but then the lawsuit pursued.
They finally.
Now you're talking about
and we lost,
district attorneys.
Yeah, but we
You're
did
not
nothing.
talking about
Right,
officers.
but this is
But
an
in that-
example.
Yeah, but in that moment, the example is that you had a legally permitted rally from the city happening in Civic Center Park, which was the pro-police rally. Permitted, insured, licensed, the whole 9 yards. And DPD was there to protect that event, right? Because it was licensed by the city to be there and permitted. And they had a wall of people prepared for Antifa. Antifa started running, and DPD opened the gates and let them in. We were all there. You can ask Randy Corcoran, you can ask the organizer of the pro-police rally, you can ask Michelle Malkin, John Tigan, you can ask any of them. They'll all tell you, because we were all there standing on that stage. She was speaking. Diane was there.
I was
right?
there. Yeah.
You were there, right?
Yep.
They opened up and let Antifa in, and then when they started bludgeoning the performers and the speakers on the stage with speakers and mic stands and skateboards and all sorts, we had literally one of the band members got cracked over the head with a skateboard in front of a Denver police officer, and DPD didn't do anything. They didn't even help the victims of those
I
people that were
understand,
hurt.
and I'm not gonna defend them, but I'm telling you,
Yeah.
you've already answered the question. You don't know what orders they were given.
No, we didn't until
Unfortunately,
after.
We didn't until after.
The orders
After
that
the
they
fact.
appear to have been given is to stand down. Now, why that order was given, I have no idea.
It's all political.
Let's not label every police officer in the state of Colorado.
I hear you.
No, we're not, but
With the
this is,
actions
but
of
this
something
is
that happened
why,
that's
but this
around.
is why that label happens.
What?
And
Really?
this is why, and it happens from
Shima,
Antifa's
did you have
perspective
a
as
question
well as
before you
ours.
go?
Yeah, that was,
yeah.
that was an
Okay.
unfortunate situation.
It's extremely unfortunate, but this is the purpose of why there needs to be that blindness, because both sides have been victims. Antifa has been the victim of it, and our side has been the victim of it when they say to not, to not do that.
Talk
But-
to the district attorney.
Yeah.
No, they're
So-
bought and paid for by Soros. It's all political. I'm the one who said get rid of the Democrats. That's the whole business.
So,
I would say too, thank you for your service, sir,
Yes,
as an
thank you.
officer,
And are you
but
still
also,
working, or are you retired? You're
I'm
retired.
still a certified federal officer.
Okay.
Yes.
Very
I'm
good.
gonna say
Uh,
thank you, I do have to go, but my son is a Lakewood police officer, agent, and he's been involved in the shooting, and I'm grateful for his expertise and his training,
Yes.
and he took care of the guy, took him out immediately, and
Good.
it was good.
we thank you
Good.
for his
Thank
service.
you.
There you go.
Thank you.
Well,
See, there are good ones out there.
Yes.
And
There are
the-
more of them than the bad. Yes.
I would say to his point that there's not just the two victims in that thing, what you were talking about with Antifa and with that rally. I'm sure that many of the officers there did want to step in, but there are problems with the legal system, with the bureaucracy of it, where if they step in, they become personally liable for it.
Right, that's a huge
So,
problem, and that's a
it's
huge
not-
problem in Colorado.
Yeah, it's not the officers, it's the infrastructure.
And the legislature passing
It's the
laws that
laws
make it
that
Am I correct?
impossible for them to react.
Yeah.
Because then they are.
Personal
at threat of
liability,
Personal
right?
liability,
Yep.
right.
So
Right.
I don't want to get too
Goes
far.
back to that Democrat thing.
We've gone
So I don't wanna
way
get too-
into the woods and out the other side there.
Yeah.
Yes, I know, we're way in the woods. But I do have time for one more question, if anyone has any questions. But I want to get you guys out of here at a decent time, so if there is any more questions. Anybody got anything? Yeah.
One more thing, I guess. You were talking earlier about stuff on the internet. What is your personal and professional opinion on what we should do to reform artificial intelligence or AGI generated imagery and video?
Okay. So I think you're asking about, for example, the Take It Down Act. Is that what you're
Yes,
referring
yes.
to? Yeah. So personally, I have been a victim of what the Take It Down Act was established to prevent against, right, and to prosecute. If you don't know what the Take It Down Act is, it is a bill that Melania Trump worked very, very hard to get passed through the House and the Senate and signed into law that protects the victims of what is called revenge porn. I had someone release photos of me that were not very flattering back in March of this year. And of course, the Take It Down Act had not yet been signed, so it's of no help to me, right? But what it did was it did bring to light that there are AI-generated images and there are people that use fake accounts to send out these photos and attack individuals, right? People that they don't disagree with, what have you. The Take It Down Act went very far in that effort to reform those issues and to give the victims of that justice. I am grateful that the AI provision that was in the One Big Beautiful Bill about legislating AI, I'm glad that they talked about that and worked that out, and I can't remember how it ended, but I feel like they were starting to say that they were not going to pass any restrictions on it for several years, and then they said, well, let's rethink that and let's do it.
Right.
And so now they're passing those restrictions, and I think that they do need to come up with some stuff to protect against that image creation, right? Because they can take anybody in this room that they have 3 or 4 photos of, put it into an AI generator, and all of a sudden you're naked in a crowd of people, and they post it and say, look at this person, they're a nudist, right? And your career's done, right? In a New York second, the blink of your eye, your career is over, whether you did it or not. Because the public perception is, you're not a victim, you are the perpetrator. Because you took the photo, or your face is on the photo, right? Whether you're innocent or not. And
I think we're all learning to not trust the web.
Yes.
And that's it, but it's
Trust
so
the
hard to
internet. As soon as you
differentiate.
put something on this phone, it's out there for life.
Don't take it
And
for
so,
serious.
exactly. So I think that, they do need to put some restrictions on that kind of stuff. I think that Melania Trump has done a great job of advocating to our children to be cautious and to be careful, and then also has done a great job of advocating to protect the victims of those heinous crimes. So I think that we'll see more of that in the next 4 years, and hopefully we can come to a time when God has spoken to enough people's hearts that we don't have to worry about these issues, right? We were talking about the peace deal in Israel upstairs earlier in Randy's office, and saying that, well, here comes biblical prophecy, right? Here comes the greatest peace followed by the greatest evil, right? We're watching the pieces fall, and all we can look at is Revelation and go, oh boy, here we go, right? So, with that, I want to thank you all for coming out. I appreciate it greatly. I'm sorry we didn't get a bunch of people that disagreed with us. I had hoped for that. But hey, it was still a beneficial evening. So next month is November. Is also my birthday on that meeting, so we'll have a cake. Because, well, my birthday's on Monday, the meeting's on Tuesday, but you get the gist. We'll have cake. And then as a friendly reminder, we do not meet in December because of Christmas. November, we will probably try and plan some type of Christmas holiday celebration to cap off the year. We'll try and bring in Victor Marks. I'm going to try and get him to come because I would like for all of us to hear from him and ask him some tough questions, because there are a lot of them out there. But with that, I want to thank everybody for coming out, and be safe getting home. Thank you for joining us, and hope to see you next time.
Morning, Maya.